Daphne, can you believe that it has been 12 years since you went through podcasting A to Z?
I cannot. I cannot believe that it has been 12 years. That's crazy.
I
And I
want
don't know if it really feels shorter or longer, but 12 years just sounds long.
It has been an incredible journey. I want to ask you
Mm.
one question. We'll get into who you are and why all that's important in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I've learned we need to hook people when it comes to video. So I want to know, what has been your greatest frustration, your greatest obstacle in the world of content creation as a podcaster over the years?
Wow. Well, the greatest frustration. For sure, I would say it would be the consistency. And let me say why I think I think when I say consistency, immediately I would imagine people's mind might go to content, coming up with the content, the ideas. That's not what I'm talking about. I actually am in no loss of ideas of what to talk about. It's being able to stay consistent with, having your setup the way that you need it, understanding what goes into the technology, the pieces, and having that work in a reliable, methodical way. And so and I know we're going to get into this, so I'm jumping ahead. But I think that was the benefit, Cliff, of working with you is really understanding how all of these, and it's obviously technology's changed a lot, but how all of these pieces work together. And yeah, content for sure, but being able to be consistent, but also having a reliable process and understanding how the gear works and all of it, all of it. So yeah, hopefully I'm answering your question. A lot of
Absolutely.
pieces.
Yeah. So consistencies and the reliable tech is what I hear you're saying is the fact that week in, week out, the content for you, what I'm hearing, has never been an issue. Like, what am I going to talk about? There's always plenty of that. What I'm hearing
Yeah.
your struggle has been over time is the consistency of the tech being reliable, set up. One of the things I know about you, you like to move across the country several times a year, back and forth. And so just that consistency of the same kind of quality of audio, and then having
Yeah.
a podcast studio that you invest heavily into setting up in one area, but then you go to Michigan for a couple of months and that studio is not there. How do you stay consistent with creating content away from that environment that you've created? Those are the kinds of things I'm hearing. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, very correctly. And I know we're gonna probably get into this,
Well,
but
we're into it. We just keep
okay,
going.
we're into
We
this
we
bit. Okay,
we
this
we dive in, and we'll get to who Daphne is in a little bit.
yeah. Yeah, and I think and thank you for pointing out, I do move around. I have a summer house that I go to in the summer months, as you know. And even if you're not a person that does that, I think this is what I love about how podcasting has grown in 12 years, and you were doing it even before then. Um, well, way before then, is listening to audio that isn't done well. And I can't listen to it. It's very distracting. And it takes away from what maybe someone has a great message. Maybe someone has like the most powerful thing that they could be sharing, but it's garbled and it's just not very pleasing to the ear. And if I've learned anything, and I think I picked up on this very quickly from you, Cliff, it's like people will tolerate kind of half good quality audio or video. They will not tolerate poor audio. And I think that's where podcasting, I think there's definitely different barriers to video, as you and I both know, but really getting that audio dialed in is just critical. And so all of that consistency and being able to be regular, sort of in a way with audio and having the setup and being able to hit one button and go, is something that was a challenge for sure, and that's changed a
Nice.
lot too. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing something that I know a lot of people are resonating with. We'll talk about your journey of your setups over the years,
Mhm.
what you've been doing recently with your video content is phenomenal. We'll get into all of
Oh,
that.
thank
But
you.
I would like to introduce you for just a bit. You and I have had an ongoing relationship throughout the years professionally that has spanned nearly, I think, 13, 14 years now. And
Yeah.
it has been an incredible journey to watch you go from this corporate leadership and role, and then see you make a decision that, wow, I'd like to go out and jump into the content creating world. I'd like to be a course creator. I'd like to be an entrepreneur. I'd like to be this coach and navigate that. Tell me a little bit about your professional journey and how it's paralleled your content creation journey.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about this. I obviously knew we were going to be talking today, and I was thinking about what was it that was pulling on me. There were several threads that were being pulled, for people to know. I had a very incredible career as a physical therapist who's treating patients. And this was around the idea. I think it was just, and you probably have a lot more perspective to share on this, Cliff, of just what was happening in the world with the internet and technologies, and this idea of having a platform, to get your ideas into the world. And I was very intrigued by this. And I thought, what would it, and I was at the same time getting very much into leadership, consciousness, psychology. I was leading teams, and I just got very intrigued, and I was starting to put together a course. I was already doing leadership development, and I think I got exposed to Michael Hyatt,
Hmm.
and I was learning his things, and that's where I found you. I had no desire or thought in my mind about having a podcast. Like, that was not anywhere on my radar. And then I saw you in his content somewhere, and I'm like, oh, this is for me. I like to talk. I have no issue at the time, I had no issue talking. I want to learn more about this podcasting thing. And you probably have an, I can remember, well, it was at least 12 or 13 years ago. So my journey really on the content side, on the creator side, it was really a transition. I got exposed to coaching, and I thought, how do I do more coaching? How do I share my ideas that could be helpful for my clients? That's really who I was most interested in serving. How do I work with people when we'd have a session once a month or something like that? How do I create more content for them to be more helpful? That was really the impetus behind it. I had never really thought about how do I reach the masses? That wasn't really on my radar, but it was more, how do I provide more content to my clients and where that could be helpful? And I also just had this leaning toward it. I just think I would enjoy it. I've always had this, sort of being drawn to technology anyway. I'm kind of a techie kind of gal in that way. So it just, all those things lined up. And then that led me down a whole road of becoming an executive coach, doing workshops, trainings for people, and I just kept developing from there. Got a psychology degree, and the whole thing. So that's where it ended up.
I love it.
Yeah.
Your one of your was the Super Fantastic Leadership Show. Was that your first podcast?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yes.
And was
Yes.
Katie Hendricks your co-host from the beginning of that show?
She was. Yes.
Now,
Yes.
some
Dr.
people
Catherine
who
Hendricks.
are familiar with my own journey know that I was introduced to the book The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks
Yes.
in, I think it was September 2017. As you know, it
Mhm.
had a pretty profound impact in my life and the
As
direction.
it did, as it did mine, which is so funny.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was so amazed that here I helped you back in podcasting A to Z to launch this show with Katie Hendricks as your co-host. I'd listened to several of your episodes, and only years later did I read the book The Big Leap, had a profound impact in my life. And I never put two and two together that Katie Hendricks was Gay Hendricks' wife. And I'm
Right.
like, oh my gosh, no way. What a small world. Of course, it was because of that connection. I was blessed to have an interview with Gay right after being introduced to his work. And
Isn't that wild?
it is incredible. This is what I love
So
about
wild.
podcasting. Is just like everybody is just, they say 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. And in the
Yeah.
podcasting world, we're we would be shocked to know how
Yeah.
accessible some of the people that we look up to the most actually are to us as a podcast content creator. Tell
Yeah.
me about your experience in that podcast, having a co-host from the beginning. What was that like? What challenges did having a co-host bring to the table? And yeah, talk
Mm.
about those early episodes with Katie.
Yeah. Great question about a co-host versus not. And I'll just be real revealed. Like it's something that I debate from this day. I'm getting ready to start another podcast and I debate, I love having someone to bounce off of.
Yep.
And it comes with its own challenges. Technology would be one of them, getting the sound, where you want it. Do they have the equitable equipment, gear, that sort of thing to get the audio good, the input good from the beginning, right? Not having to deal with too much post production. Um, so these are sort of the things I think. I'm sort of a logistical kind of person in that way. And I'm like, okay, what am I signing myself up for? I can have the idea and have the show, and then what's going to happen on the in post? How much time am I spending in post with these things? So the advantage of a co-host is, you're talking to another person. I think people can enjoy hearing the conversation between two people, which is nice, but it does get a little, there's the part of just managing the audio and managing the technology and making sure that that's all good. And the logistics, your scheduling, and in the spirit of keeping things consistent, you're going to have to schedule how many shows a week are you going to record. I don't know where you land on this, Cliff, but I definitely had the experience in my early days of attempting to record or put together one piece of content every week and then feeling the effects of what happens, versus having two or three or four pieces of content in the hopper, because you might want to take a week off. You might want to travel. You might want to do some other things. So if you have a co-host, really knowing that you can get on the same schedule and manage those things well, I think matters. I like listening to both. I listen to your show, right? Just you, and I love it. So, yeah, I think if someone's gonna start a podcast, really think through, what the commitment level is to have consistency and do it well, and what it looks like. I'm sure we're gonna bring this up. We've done a show together,
Yes, we
and
have.
yeah, and I think being with someone who's really comfortable, being a co-host, being able to bounce off that person is really important too, and then bouncing off you. It's like there's a lot of pitch and catch that's happening in real time in a conversation. So all of those things come into consideration. Choose wisely, I would say.
Yes. I
Yes.
only mention this since you brought it up, and that is my
Yeah.
thoughts on batch processing.
Yeah.
Recording a bunch of these and having them in the can just in case you have scheduling conflicts or you're actually planning to go out of town for a couple of weeks. My recommendation is if you can hold off on batch processing until you've found your voice in
Mm.
behind the microphone, you'll be better off because in those early days, most people who have never podcasted before, who have never gotten behind a microphone, they until you find your voice, you're literally improving week to week to week.
Yes.
Whereas if you like, hey, we've never done a podcast before, but let's go ahead and record the first 5 right out of the gate.
Mhm.
You haven't had really any opportunity to make any improvement from one episode to the next. And so even though somebody's first time listening to episode number 1, and then all of a sudden if they listen to the first 5 episodes, they see no progression in quality and
Yes.
over those episodes because they were all recorded the same day. Whereas if you could actually record one episode, publish it, listen to it, get a little feedback, and then you'll come back to the microphone with some nuance and do that for, I'd say, at least a couple of weeks, if you can, more than maybe a month or two even. But once you feel like you found your voice, batch record as many as you can, get them in the bank, but find that
Okay, I'm
voice
going to blow your
first.
mind.
Yeah, go right
I'm
ahead.
going to blow your mind. Batch anyway, you don't have to release it.
Ah,
So,
yeah, there you go.
so in the spirit of rehearsing and practicing and getting your reps, yeah, you don't have to release it. You can keep it. And I think this is part of, yeah, I'm gonna do you right here, Cliff. I think this is the advantage of being in a class and being with a group of people. Okay. Is that I can record 2 or 3 episodes or 4 episodes, and on my fourth one, say to you or somebody I'm in A to Z with, right? And say, hey, you don't have to listen to the whole 20 minutes of me, but would you listen to the first 3 minutes? Would you listen to, the middle section of this and give me some feedback. Tell me what you think, right? Tell me what you think about my introduction. Tell me what you think about midway. Do you want to keep listening to me after you've listened to minute 4? You know, and I think that's the advantage of just getting feedback from people before you even release anything.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, I think in the spirit of getting reps, and there's a weird thing, and I don't know if you can remember this, and I still have it a little bit. There's a weird thing that happens when you hit record. I'm like the most, easygoing, got it all down. And then that red light comes on or the record button gets hit and something happens. And so I think the more habits the more time you can just have of just hitting that record button over and over again, makes it just a lot easier too. So yes,
I
that's
do
my,
like that. And I especially love
yeah,
the idea of getting those reps in, having some stuff in the event that something comes up unexpected and you're not able to
sure.
get out there. You could hire somebody to go in and produce your show, and they can
Yeah,
do some creative editing and take something that, if it was just put out without production work on it, it might not
that's right.
be the best thing, but wow, you could pull some really creative edits out of some early
You
stuff.
can. Yeah, absolutely. And every once in a while you hit something that you might not have said, I've done this. I mean, I've recorded 3 or 4 videos or on the same topic. And I just record it and then I hit stop and then I record it again. And every once in a while something genius comes out of my mouth that I didn't say the first 2 times. I'm like, oh, I want to grab that. And I'll go back and grab it. So yeah, I think in the spirit of just getting the reps, I think it's really
Yeah.
helpful too. Yeah. But you don't, just because you recorded it, you don't have to release it, as you know.
As I know. So episode 801 of the Cliff Ravenscraft show, I recorded version 1 of that.
Mm-hmm.
It was an hour and like 49 minutes in length.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just, I was in flow. I'm like, this is amazing. All of this stuff. And I just laid everything down. And by the way, the title of the episode is When I Recognized My Business Needed a Course Correction and What I Did About It.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Yes.
I'm just laying it out there. And then I hit stop and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to publish that tomorrow because, I took a lot of time to record it. I go to bed and I'm like, okay. I could have done without sharing that. I didn't have to say that. I said that over and over again. But it was good that I recorded because now I know what I want to say. But if I was
Yeah.
going to publish this, I wouldn't publish that. So
Yeah.
I took it off the SD card and I filed away in my archive. So it'll there's the released work that will be in the archives if anybody ever wants to go through it one day posthumously. But anyway, so I sat down and I re-recorded the second time. And then it was an hour and 29 minutes.
Yeah.
Much better. And I'm like, oh, this is really good. However, the last 45 to 50 minutes of it, I was looking at the clock. It's like, oh, I gotta wrap this up. I gotta wrap this up. And I found myself rushing myself so I could end right before a call. And
Mm.
in fact, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and end this now, and I'm gonna finish this up and share this last bit later. And I'm like, I didn't like how rushed that felt. And then I was thinking, I'm going to start this all over again. But then I brought it into editing process. And I'm like, oh, the first 30, 40 minutes of this is solid. I mean, it's really good. And so I cleaned all of that up. And then at one point, I'm like, okay, right here is when I started feeling rushed. Deleted
Mm.
all of that, re recorded from there. And all said and done, it took me about 3.5 hours to record and then another probably hour and a half to edit what finally was released as episode number 801. But
Okay, for those of you thinking about starting podcasting, there you go.
yeah. Well, and the thing
Reps.
is there at some point there are certain episodes that you're going to refer back to
Yeah.
over and over again. This is going to be a turning point. This is going to be one of those episodes.
Mm.
I and
That's
also
good.
there are episodes, I don't want to call them filler episodes, but there are some episodes that are just not as important long-term evergreen as other pieces of
Mhm.
content.
Right.
And when I got to episode 801, I'm like, this is a show I don't want anybody checking out on. Meaning that
Yeah.
it's like Cliff said this 2 different ways, but he's saying the same thing over and over again. I don't know that I got time for this. No, let's clean this up and say it only once, say it take the best take and clean this up. And so that's what I wanted to do with episode 801. And I don't hold that highest standard to every episode, but if I did, I'd need a producer because ain't nobody got time for that.
I think you're making a very important distinction, though, and I think that's kind of what I'm pointing to as well, is like, there are going to be these moments when you're like, oh, I didn't nail that. I want to go back and get it.
Yeah.
This is important. This one's really, and hopefully, I mean, I think it's true for you and for me, we come to a certain level of quality. So there's a baseline expectation,
Yeah.
right? And you're not going to violate that baseline expectation. And then there may be moments when, hey, this is going to be something I'm going to be listening to. I want people to listen to for the next 15 years, as long as I'm on this planet type of thing. And I want to make sure that that gets where it needs to go. So yeah, I think that's true. Yeah. Yes.
So tell me, Daphne, when you return with your next podcast, is it going to be audio only or are you going to add a video element to it?
I knew you were going to ask me this. You know, I feel very well. I'm going to talk about this in two ways. One is, as you mentioned, I'm doing quite a bit with YouTube right now and video specifically on my YouTube channel. And video, um, it's different. I think it should be. I think when I'm recording a podcast, knowing because I've had the experience of doing an audio only podcast before, I hold it differently. Energetically, it feels differently in my body. And so as I've been thinking about, and this is not to say that you can't do an audio version podcast. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying what's true for me here is when I'm on video, I feel different. I'm looking right into the camera. There's body movements that are there. There's ways you're leaning, there's ways you're pulling back. You're emphasizing things because you can use your body. I'm not saying that there isn't things like that happening on audio, but the intentionality is very different. So as I've really thought through that, I'm like, I think if I'm going to do an audio, if I'm going to do what you and I would think of as a podcast, which was audio, I'm making my own definitions now. I'm defining it for myself. I'm going to stick with audio only.
Yeah.
Now, some of this, and I'd be curious just to get your opinions on this. I'm sure you've thought about this too. Some of this is also because I have a YouTube channel where I'm investing a lot of time and energy on video. So if people really want to see me on video, they absolutely can. But those segments are very different. I'm keeping my YouTube between 6 and 8 minutes. I'm speaking about a lot of psychological concepts on video. So there's editing that goes into that. What you were saying about getting the hook, and the video is very different. So there's just it's a different medium. And I will function different. I function with it differently. So therefore, as I'm thinking about this podcast, it's going to be audio.
I love it. And I have no expectation of what anybody's going to answer when it comes to that question
Yeah,
because it's the Wild West. The one thing I love about
it
podcasting is
is.
it's still the Wild West. If we
Yes.
remain faithful to the truest definition of what a podcast is, we will always, as independent content creators, get to choose what we want to do. And I just want to
Okay.
say for anybody out there that doesn't know what the original definition of a podcast is, it's not an audio it's not audio and it's not video. It is a media file. A media file that
That's
is
so good.
distributable through a media enclosure in an RSS feed. That is it.
Great.
And
That's
so
it.
I just did an article that I wrote for myself, and I'll share it with people as I debate the definition of a podcast in the future because I know
Yeah.
it's going to continue to happen. It's still happening 20 years later.
And
But
I will tell you, I go ahead because I want to asterisk this. I am going to tell you one of my pet peeves though when people are doing a quote podcast and they're on video.
yeah, okay. I'd
So
love to hear your pet peeve. I'll
yeah,
just
okay.
wrap my thing and just say that I'm actually thinking about bringing back a PDF cast. So
I know what that is.
back in the day, when podcasting was first getting started, there were podcatching software. Today we call them podcast apps. But
Okay.
back in the day, they were called podcatchers. They were special RSS readers that had the ability to download any media file that was enclosed in the media enclosure. And it was very
Oh,
common
interesting.
for people to enclose audio files, video files, and PDF files. And so people would actually distribute online magazines via podcast. So,
Wow.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I would love to hear your pet peeve about people who claim to have a podcast, but they don't.
Well, yeah. So, well, there, and this typically shows up when there's a co-host situation where they are recording themselves on video and they're going to release it into the podcast world, which is only audio. My biggest peeve is where they start describing something that me as an auditory, I'm listening to you, I cannot see it.
Okay.
So you're talking about someone's hair, you're talking about someone's whatever's going on in the environment. I can't see what you're talking about.
Okay.
And it drives me crazy.
That drives me crazy as well. It's one of the reasons why I am an audio first
Yep.
podcaster and I am an audio only advocate at times for certain people.
Hmm.
And I go in and out. I ebb and flow when it comes to whether or not I want to have a video component to the podcast itself, to the podcast episode. There are a couple of things that I want to point out that you're talking about. There are a lot of people who will create video recordings of them recording their podcast. And the idea is that, well, I might as well benefit from all of the algorithm and discoverability that happens because of YouTube. And I think that's great. There's a lot to be said for that. A lot.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then what they'll do is they'll take the audio from that video and put that and distribute it as a podcast through an audio podcast feed. And then to your point, yes, when somebody sits there and I'm listening to an audio podcast in my audio podcasting app, which has all of the benefits that YouTube does not deliver to me. I love the fact I'm listening to an audio podcast, but then you're going on and on about something only people who could see the video of this can
Yes.
benefit from. I feel like a second class citizen that you're no longer talking to me. You've broken the relationship.
Yes. It makes me crazy.
Yeah.
And it
So,
happens quite often. And I think I love what you said too. I was I was encouraged at one point to take my video audio and use that as my podcast, which I would never do. Because mostly because I think, I've had a podcast before. I think for people who have known me and know me in the podcast, who've known my podcast, to suddenly just have this on video, take audio from that would just it would not work for many reasons. Yes, and it does feel like I think there's sort of not this understanding that a majority of people when they're listening to podcasts, it's headphones in their ears,
yeah. And they're
right?
doing
Like I
things where screen time is not required, such as washing the
yeah,
dishes or driving in the car or going for a jog or
yeah,
hiking
right.
through the woods. I mean, there's all sorts of things that people do while listening to
Yes.
podcasts. and
Yes.
and watching your video is something they'll do somewhere else
That's right.
however, I do want to point out that ever since, well, it's going on 20 years now for Leo Laporte and Mac Break Weekly and This Week in Tech, two podcasts that I've been subscribed to for more than 20 years that are video podcasts. So
Hmm.
his
Yeah.
shows are all panel discussions. They are all recorded in video, live streamed on video. There is an audio only podcast feed of the show, but there's
Right.
also a video RSS feed of the show. And so my podcasting app of choice is Pocket Casts, and I
Yes.
subscribe to the video version of those podcast feeds. So it is a podcast, it is deliverable via the RSS feed. That video is actually a podcast. They often refer to things on the screen. And what I love about it is that most of the time, I click play, the video's on, but I close the app and the audio continues. and I'm doing my thing, and as they will, they'll talk about something that's in on the screen. It's like, "Hey, did you see this ad from Apple? It's absolutely stunning what they did and the storytelling and the way they did the cinematography and all this. It's like, this is amazing." And I'm like, "Okay, let me pull my phone. First of all, let me dry my hands off of the dishes. Let me pull my phone out of my pocket. Let me go back a little bit and pull up the video and watch that little segment." And I like that. I That's not a pet peeve of mine. Now, it
Yeah.
would be a pet peeve if I was subscribed to the only audio only version.
Right.
That
They
would
have
be
an
a pet
RSS
peeve.
video. Right. That's right. They have a specific video, RSS video feed. Yes.
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 So if you're gonna
Yeah.
have if you're gonna
That
have
changes things.
video of your podcast and you're gonna refer to things that people can see, I would highly encourage you to make sure that you make a video version feed of this. Diary of a CEO is a podcast that I enjoy
Mm,
watching several episodes of. And in Pocket Casts, like a year ago, they had an audio version of the feed and a video version of the feed. And I found myself frustrated because they were not in sync on the release date. And then even
mm,
over time, I recognized that sometimes there were episodes from the video that never showed up, but the audio did. And then eventually over time, and it could be that I just didn't look close enough, but the video version, I had unsubscribed from both of them because of my frustration. And I'm like,
yeah.
I'll just subscribe to him on YouTube. And I may or may not ever catch his episodes because I don't watch every episode of a YouTube video. I do consume almost every episode of a podcast I'm subscribed to. It's a
All right.
difference. But
Yes.
because I'm a completionist, right? I don't If I can't have everything, I don't want anything. Get out of here. And then I went to go get it back because of somebody he interviewed that I'd love to listen to. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but I don't want to listen to it. I want the video version because I know there's going to be several times when I want to see the look on their face when they said that or whatever.
Right.
And the video version wasn't there. And I'm like, I'm stuck with YouTube again. Anyway, fun stuff.
Well, now that we've gotten our pet peeves out of the way,
You
but these are the things that you learn, you learn along the way, right? You're sort of and you want to kind of cut down your learning curve. So since you asked me the question, I knew you were going to ask if I was
Yeah,
going to do audio.
I'm thrilled because, well, I have no dog in the hunt or whatever, if whatever that phrase is. I just
Yeah.
know that you invested in a beautiful studio that you're sitting in.
Yeah.
I've watched it from idea into
Mhm.
reality, and it is so stunning. I know the setup that you've got there, and I can imagine how enticing it might feel to want to create a video version of that podcast
Yeah.
and without trying to influence you. And I'm thrilled that I already have your answer now. I just know how much of an obstacle the video component can be without an
Yeah.
entire team of people to produce that video for you.
That's exactly right. And I do have an editor who even helps me with all of my, I mean, I don't do any of that myself. It's a whole nother art form. I could learn it. I could. It would take away from a lot of other things that I know I want to spend my time doing and quite candidly should be spending my time doing, just on the YouTube video side of it, even on the audio side of it, doing just an audio podcast. Now you taught me everything I needed to know about editing audio and doing that. And there's probably a point where I won't be doing that myself either. There are people who, my video editors and audio engineers, so he can probably handle some of those things. But yeah, there's a lot more that goes into it. It is, I have watched where, and I may play with this at some point on the podcast side where I do record myself doing the podcast, but I only take certain clips of that and
Hmm.
release just that. I've watched Amy Poehler's doing kind of some version of that with hers, which I really like. There's just little tiny reels that they do here and there, but her podcast it's audio. There's no video to really watch, and I think that's kind of clever. Um, but yeah, to go through all of that, I just it's not it's just a different medium. I enjoy playing in those different mediums. They require different things at different times. So
Yeah.
that's me. That's my opinion.
I love your
My
opinion.
preference. My preference.
There have been a number of episodes of podcasts that I've created over time. If I outline a talk, if I will, if I
Mhm.
score, I use a score method for creating content sometimes, not all of the time. But when I prepare something in advance and I know the outline and I know what my open is, I know my transitions, I know the 3 to 5 points that are being made, I know the close, and I may have even made some slides. There have been a handful of times when I'm like, I might as well deliver this either live stream and have the energy
Yeah.
of a live audience, and or record it knowing that I'm going to publish the video because I've got this message dialed in. I'm just going to go live the drive, maybe a minor edit here or there if I didn't do it live. And then what I can do is I just simply make sure that I reference nothing on the screen. I make no
Yeah.
mention of the fact that what color the background is. I need nothing that I just I talk to the camera and I talk to the person and they see the slides. I know the slides there. The people watching the video know the slides there, but the person who is listening to the audio only recording had no idea that this was ever on video. And
Yeah.
that for me is a key. And
That's good.
there've been a number of times that I've done that. And then there are a number of times when I'm like, I want to create this experience where I want to put this podcast together in segments. And so I'm like, okay, I know I've got all of these different things I want to say, and I don't know where to start, but I'm really excited about this one segment right here, right now. So I hit record and I'll just go for about 12 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, that's good. I don't know where that's gonna be in the episode, but that was good. And then I'm like,
But I
"Oh,
like
I
it.
know what I wanna do next." And then I hit record and I it's like, and now I wanna talk about blah, 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 blah. And then I hit that. And before I know it, I've got 7 different recordings that I can now mix and match, put wherever, and then record my intro, record my outro, and all that stuff. And it's so freeing to do that without any concern of a live stream and or any video of putting all that stuff together. If I had an entire team of video producers, maybe, but no. Right now, that's just not what I want to do. And I just love the freedom of just the microphone, just the audio recorder,
I do too.
and that creative editing.
I do too. It's different. Being on video is different. Um, it is. I probably wouldn't show up with bedhead on one of my YouTube videos. I might. I haven't yet.
I have, by the way,
Right?
I've lost about 40% of your audio volume.
Just now?
Yeah,
Oh, well, that's interesting. Let's
but
see.
that's okay. I can fix it in
Well,
post
I
and
don't think it's,
boost it up.
well, I don't want you to. It's interesting. They had this auto framing on Zoom. It was driving me insane, and so
Oh,
I
is that
turned it
what it
off.
is?
Yeah, but that shouldn't have anything to do with audio.
Oh,
Huh.
maybe it was psychological. Do you think that
I
that's possibly?
don't think. I
Did
don't think so.
Yeah, no, it could be. It could
Well, I
be
will tell you,
because you were
I leaned forward a bit. I did lean forward, so tell me if it's better
yeah,
now.
it's definitely better.
Okay,
I
good.
was
I
wondering
might
if it was
slow down.
psychological because you were further away and I had and maybe that, but I think it was actually the fact that
I
when you switched your camera, which by the way, now this is not going to be able to be used in audio. That's okay.
It's
But
not
when you switched the thing, you kind of leaned back a little bit, and so I guess you
yeah,
have a
I did.
shotgun mic there or something like that.
Correct. You're 100% accurate.
Yep,
Yes, that's right. Yep.
awesome.
Yep.
All
But
right,
yeah, it was following me. It was driving me crazy. I'm like, just want you to hold my position.
okay.
Zoom
So
does what it wants.
Daphne, what's your idea for your new podcast?
Yeah, so it's the Brave New Way Leadership Podcast. And it is really the essence of the show is the brave new way of leading. What do I mean by that? Pretty bold in that way, and defining what I mean by brave, what I find the new way. And it really is a lot, Cliff, you'll relate to this very strongly. A lot around our own consciousness, how we're actually coming to our work in the world, how we're showing up in leadership, how we are making our decisions and our choices in the working world, in the modern world, which can do us quite a bit of disservice to our nervous systems. And I'm talking and have been the burned out, overwhelmed, leader, as you know. You were my coach for a while. You got a real big dose of that. And it's a podcast that's really there to support people in leading in a different way, making different choices, sometimes very difficult choices. Um, you know, I coach clients who have gotten to the mountaintop, if you will, get to the climb the ladder, get the stuff, do the thing, get the promotions, and find themselves pretty disenchanted
Yeah.
with what's happened. And how can we be a little bit more forthcoming? How can we honor some of these parts of us that are very aware that we're getting too far off track? Um, and certainly, I'm an achiever. I enjoy that part of myself. I have my ambitions, and it isn't to dismiss any of that. And it is to hold it in a certain light and hold it in a different way so that we don't lose ourselves in the process. So that's the essence of the podcast.
Nice. And that's
Yeah.
going to come out when?
The end of February. Don't hold me to that.
The end of February.
I have, when we talk about business, right? Several other things that I'm in the process of working on at the moment, and so my plan is February, and if all goes well, that will be great. That will happen.
Do you know how many episodes of the super fantastic leadership show that you did?
Yeah, it was just shy of 300. I think I made it to 298.
Nice. I'm surprised that Achiever and you didn't just record 2 more just for the heck of it.
I know, just for the heck of it, just to say I hit 300.
It's not too late, Daphne. You could knock out 2 episodes before the end of the year. I did 300 episodes of that show.
Well, I like to say, I will say this. I like to say that I absolutely have done 300 plus episodes of podcasting because we did our show together. So it pushed me over the, as far as total episodes of podcasts go. I definitely did hit the 300 mark.
Yeah,
Yes,
we did a
exceeded it.
podcast called Life, the Ultimate Choose Your Own Adventure Game. And we did
Yeah,
that for 2 whole seasons. It was amazing and fun.
it was. It was.
It
It was
was
very
a
fun.
lot of fun. And that's available, I think, on your website, isn't it? At
Yeah, it's still,
daphne-scott.com?
yeah, it's still there. It's still, you can find it in any podcast player where you want to get your podcast. It's still on there. Yeah, it'll be there
Sweet.
forever. Not going anywhere.
What would you recommend to somebody out there who is thinking about getting into a podcast, but they are afraid of all of the tech gear and
Mm,
all of the production stuff? They have no idea where to start. What would you
yeah.
recommend for them?
Well, I think work with somebody who knows all of that, so they're not having to put it all together themselves. I am a very big fan of going to the experts so that I don't want to be an expert in all the technologies. That's not what I espouse. I want to know it though, and I want to know how it works. So the first thing I would say is don't get overwhelmed by the technology. Just go find the person who knows the technologies, who can point you in the right direction and help you get your stuff set up. That's worthy of your time. Because if you're the person who wants to be behind the microphone, I always say that I don't know which side of the camera I like the most. If I like being on the side where I'm being filmed, or if I like being on the side where I'm doing the filming, because I like technology so much. But if you really want to be on the side of the microphone where you're creating the content, then allow people who know the technology to teach you the technology so that you're not wasting a lot of time. So you can stay in the seat of content creator.
Awesome.
Those things, yeah, can be set up. I think the nice thing about audio only podcasts, and again, Cliff, to my appreciation for you is you can teach that pretty quickly. Here's what you need to do. Here's if you've got the good mic set up, if you've got the good stuff set up correctly, then your audio quality doesn't become an issue, right? It becomes a very low part of a low barrier. The second thing so there's that. I wouldn't get overly concerned about. And I looked at your post of your original setup of your equipment. And it wasn't that. I mean, that's how I felt with my original setup, my equipment. I had the Mackie, what was it, like an 8-track something that we were using, all the wires and the cables. And it's so much more simple now. And I think you just did a post about the what was the smaller device that you had, the
The PodTrack P4 Next.
insane.
I'm
You were
using
in
it.
your car the other day.
Yeah, I'm using it right now. I have 2 of them. Here's the one that actually goes in my backpack and goes with me everywhere. But I literally have the Rodecaster Pro 2 powered down, pushed to the side.
And so you're using it right now,
I'm
that little
using
guy.
it right now.
Yeah, okay. So, I would not get, if you were wanting to start a podcast, I would not get concerned about the technology,
Yeah.
and you can decide. The second thing, though, that is really worthy of spending time on, like you just asked me, so what's your new podcast about, Daphne? Right? Like, can you get that out in like two out breaths? Can I tell you what the Brave New Wave Leadership Podcast is about in one or two sentences and who I'm talking to? And I think that's the part where having clarity about who do you think you're talking to? Who's your audience, right? What do you want them to know? Like, what's the not all the pieces of the topics, but what's the thread? And that's, starting with that. And I know we did that with your A to Z course, sort of like, what are you really talking about? Who are you talking to? Who's coming to you, and who's sort of, quote, your audience, if you will. So spending time to think through that, I think, is really important, because that will guide. It doesn't mean your show can't bend and it can't morph over time, but it just helps guide, put some guardrails around things, and that actually makes it easier as a content creator instead of harder, in my experience. So I think it's worthy of spending time on those things. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then third, just hit record. After you've done all that stuff, you gotta hit record. Let yourself do it.
I love all of that.
Yeah.
Those are reminiscent of the things that I would ask at the beginning of every relationship with somebody that I'm consulting on how to launch a podcast, is the answer to those questions. And one additional question, and that is, how do you define success for this podcast? How will you know in a
Mm.
few years from now that you succeeded with what you wanted to accomplish with this podcast? And I always love the
Yes.
answer to that question. It
Yes.
really is fascinating. And it's
Yep.
ironic how many people don't have an answer to it.
Yeah. Well, so I'm gonna give a caution first. Um, Knowing your reason for doing a podcast, anything you're doing your business, is really helpful. Why am I doing a YouTube channel? Right? I don't need, I the truth is, my business, I don't need any of it. I have actually, my money in my business has not come from having a podcast or having a YouTube channel or doing all these things. It really hasn't. Um, so why do it? Well, what's really true is I'm run into a person at a conference or talk that I'm giving. And this person comes up to me and says, "Hey, I just wanted to tell you, I listened to your podcast on fill in the blank, whatever the topic was, and it completely changed my perspective."
Yeah.
That's it. And the hard part of that is that you don't know it until you hear it from somebody,
Yep.
right? So if you get caught up in downloads, views, click through rates, all the stuff that these systems are telling you are important, be really careful. Because at the end of the day, for me, those things don't matter near as much as the one or two or three, and by now I can count on more than two hands, the people that have come up to me, or the people that have sent me emails, or the people that have DM'd me, or the people that have reached out to me to say, "Hey, I heard you talk about this, or I listened to this, or I read this thing. I read your book, and it changed my life." To me, Cliff, that's it.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. So, I think I judge success about two things. One, is it having an impact somewhere? And those things do shine through. And two, am I having fun doing it? Like, I love the challenge of putting together a show and putting together audio and putting together video and hooking up all this stuff, and how I show up. I love seeing who I become when I'm, hit record and what happens, and I enjoy that. So if I'm having fun doing it, then, that's the other part that really matters. So that is success for me.
I
So,
love that.
uh, yeah.
Very,
Yeah.
very similar to how I define success as well.
I
And
know.
it's
I
it's
know.
fun working with folks who are in it because it's a passion.
Yes.
It's something more than just about the numbers. And there's not
Yeah.
I have no judgment against the people who want to become wildly famous and make millions. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. No, me either. I mean, I don't have any challenge or issue with that at all. And I want to know people are watching. I'm doing the right things, quote, right things, to make high quality content, right? To
Yep.
meet those expectations of what that looks like. I always want to do that because I take pride in what I do. And you know, you just have to be really careful with yourself and know why you're doing what you're doing. I think that's really what matters. Yeah.
Well, Daphne, I just want to say congratulations on more actually coming up on your 12th anniversary in podcasting, the content that you're creating in the world. I love the dabbling that you've been doing over the years with the video side and how you've doubled down on the YouTube channel. Just
Yeah,
some
it's fun.
amazing stuff that's been coming out from your end over there on the content creation side. Is there anything
Thanks.
else you want to share before we wrap things up here?
Yeah, I'm really excited that you are coming back with the A to Z stuff and what you're, you know, Cliff, I just, your wisdom on these things is, it's invaluable. Not, you know, there's the technology side of it and the logistics side of it and those sorts of things, but then there's just that heart that comes along with creating content. And you've been creating content for longer than I have, you know, way longer. And to be able to have, and to be able to have that those arcs and that wisdom, I think is just, I just really want to appreciate you for that. And you know, that's really, when I say like go to the people who have been doing it, that's what I'm talking about. You know, go to the people that have been at this for a long time and learn everything you can. I would encourage anybody to do that. It just, I'm a big fan of expediting my learning curve.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And if anybody
Yeah.
is interested, Podcasting A to Z is back. Podcastingatoz.com. My next session starts at the end of January. So if you want to start the new
Okay.
year off with a new
Mm.
message, a new you in the world, I would love to be your coach personally, walking you through every single step in the process of successfully launching your podcast. This is a course where I've helped more than, or actually almost 700 people have gone through podcasting A to Z. And my tutorials and training materials have helped tens of thousands of people. And today I'm celebrating my 20th year in podcasting. So I'd love to be your podcast coach if you're interested. Podcastingatoz.com. Daphne is going to be launching her podcast by the end of February. No, I'm just kidding. I'm
Now
not.
I've made a commitment.
No, no, no. I'm not going to do that to her, but I'm going to say that she
No, no, I,
will.
I want the challenge. I want the challenge.
Okay,
Okay.
well, then by the end of February, there's going to be a brand new Brave Leadership podcast from Daphne Scott over at Daphne-Scott. Daphne, thank you so much for just
Yeah,
the
my
content you've put
pleasure.
into the world. Thank
Mm,
you for the content you've put into our relationship over the years. It's been a joy to journey through life
mm.
with you. I thank you. And by the way, if you have not done so already and you enjoyed this quick little conversation between Cliff and Daphne, you should check out
Yeah.
the Life. It's called Life, the ultimate uh, choose
Choose
your
your own
own
adventure
adventure
game.
game. That's it. Just look up Cliff Ravenscraft and Daphne Scott in your favorite podcast directory. Daphne,
That's
many
awesome.
blessings, happy holidays,
Mm.
and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Cliff.
All right.